Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm joined by April Punsalan, and she is the owner and founder of the Wild Herb Academy. So welcome to the show, April.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Yeah, it's fun to actually interview you. You were kind enough to donate one of your audio lessons to the HerbRally podcast. I don't even remember when that was. That might have been a year or two ago at this point. But here we are. We finally get to have a conversation on the Herbalist Hour. So I'm stoked to get to know you a little bit better. And, you know, a lot of these shows, I'll start out by kind of asking the herbalist how they got their start. So what was the herbal origin story for April?
I like that. It's always nice to hear people's stories. I listened to a couple and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Camille's, how she started in 10th grade English class. I really like that one. So I started in high school like Camille, and it was 11th grade horticulture. And I was failing, actually. I was an at-risk youth, quote unquote. I don't want to say. Yeah.
You were a troublemaker.
I was bad. I didn't like school. I just didn't fit in. You know, I was like, I could never fit in with the clique of people, really. And computers, this was 90s. I'm giving away my age, 1998, 1997, 1998. And everyone's like, computers, Yeah. So I'm in this computer vocational school because that was like, that's what you do with at-risk youth. You send them to a vocational school. And so I'm in the vocational school, falling behind in computers, and I'll never forget this guy, Chris Green, was like, April, that's where you're at. He was like, you're in trouble. So then we took a tour of the school and I see this greenhouse and I see this beautiful woman, Betsy Spears, planting pansies with these students like engaged around her. And I'm like, what is that? And the lady, the counselor, her name was Miss Hart, said, that's horticulture. And I was like, that's what I want to take. And she was like, well, here's the thing, because I had failed a grade. She was like, you are going to have to stay back like a half a year. Like computers will fast track you and you'll graduate with your class. But if you take horticulture, you're not going to graduate with your class. And I was like, I don't care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My mom was really nervous, about that decision. And Miss Hart was like, if you let your children follow their heart, the rest will just take care of itself. And so I went from, being at risk to like staying behind after school and, doing all the Future Farmers of America stuff. And just, it was so easy. Because it was like, I found my path. And so then fast forward, my mom was like, you're going to college, because she wasn't able to finish high school because she had us so young. Right. And she was like, you're not going to struggle financially like I did. And so I knew I had to go on and get my master's. So I got my bachelor's and master's in botany. And I was a botanist for the U.S. Forest Service, Nantahala National Forest, and then a botanist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, protecting rare plants, protecting federally endangered plants along the Atlantic seaboard. And I feel like it was a good way to get back to plants, right? But that's herbalism. When I was in high school, I was into like calendula, chamomile, lavender, and my horticulture teacher got all those herbs for me. Organic seeds, which was a huge deal. Yeah. She knew, She was like my angel. She's no longer here on this earth, but what a powerful mentor I had at a young age, So anyhow, we could probably talk this whole time about the horticulture experience and being a, inner city youth and how important that was.
What city were you in?
Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
The biggest naval base in America.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to talk about car lots and like noise and just not a lot of opportunity, right? For the people that are there. It's like all these people coming in and out, and there's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of drugs. People are dying from fentanyl all the time right now. It's just I always think like they just need to like smudge the whole city, like really thick cedar. Anyhow, so I went on to do all those things. And then, I'm protecting the plants, and I'm like, we're protecting this land, but no one even knows how to connect with it anymore because of the displacement of the indigenous people. That connection was there. but it was forced upon them to leave and to not practice. And so here are all these amazing, beautiful plants with no connection, right? And then I was like, I just have to teach. I just realized it was time for me to teach about when I turned 40. So I did all the plant conservation work for a good part of my life. And that really helped me become a botanist, to know plants really well. And I'm very fortunate to have some really good teachers with the U.S. Forest Service, Gary Hoffmann, and people that took me under their wing and were like, because, your job as a botanist for the Forest Service is you got to find the rare plants. If you find a rare plant, the timber sale may not happen. And so, of course, you want to find that rare plant, right? You want to find that golden seal. And you got to know all the common plants first, though. So that was, and Western North Carolina is so diverse, like the genera, like the first part of the species name, there's like so many. Where out west, it's like there's more diversity within a genus, but not as many genera. At least that's what a botanist told me that worked out west. So yeah, I feel very fortunate and also extremely blessed to come full circle, to come back to herbalism, right? And I always was practicing herbalism and studying herbalism on my own time, but to realize that we don't need to import any herbs, and that if I can teach people how to connect with the wild herbs, then they'll protect them. So then I realized like I can do more good by teaching than I can by being a botanist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Because here's the thing, plants don't receive as much protection under the Endangered Species Act as animals. So for animals, there's a word called take. Like you can't take an animal because of a building, but for a plant, you can. There's actually not even that word. Like I would literally have to say that the jeopardy of the species, the continuation of the species would not go on if that building was built. That's the last population is going to go extinct for it not to happen. And that rarely ever happened. And people are like, oh, just dig it up and move it, And so my job became really, I don't know what's the word for it, kind of depressing, very depressing, because you're just seeing all this land, right? I'm just telling people that they can clear the land in a way. And of course I was working, the Fish and Wildlife Service is an amazing agency and the work that they do, right? Because I did have to protect these species and work with all these partners and try to recover them. But there's the other part of it, the regulatory part of it, when the Amazon building gets built for all the shit we buy, right? Yeah. We don't see that, but they're like 500-acre lots getting cleared to hold all the shit we buy.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that word is probably bad, but stuff. But I get upset.
We're pro swearing around here, so no worries there.
Okay.
So there were examples where you actually were able to save certain species of plants from getting built on.
Yes. So I worked really closely with this one plant called Schweins's sunflower, and it's an amazing plant. And we believe that the Catawba Nation ate the tubers. It has like a sweet potato rhizome, and it grows near Charlotte, where there's a lot, like that's becoming a huge city. And this was like beautiful open prairies, buffalo, really open habitat. So here's this sunflower just hanging along the roads, and the roads are widening and widening and widening because of development. And I would say before I came, everyone was like, oh, we'll just dig it up and put it at this museum. So all these sunflowers were just being dug up and planted at this museum and a big open field, right? And I'm like, no, that's not the answer, because we're never going to be able to save this species, because they're going to all be at this museum. Like we need to keep these populations along the road. So you have to dig them up. And I didn't say it like that. We're going to dig them up.
Yeah.
We're going to dig them up. Will you please dig them up? And we're going to protect them at a greenhouse, right? And then after that, the road's built, we're going to put them back out. And so it's able to get contractors and DOT and Federal Highway Commission to put these sunflowers back out after road construction. And sometimes it takes like 3 years. And so that kind of stuff was hard to leave, but I do plan to volunteer, and I kind of, hopefully my colleagues will still do that, and they were pretty shocked when I left. And it was hard. It was like, whoa, I'm really going to do this. I'm really going to work on Wild Herb Academy full time.
So you left your job to essentially be an herbalist and to start your school and everything. Is that what happened?
Yeah, to work on the school full time, to teach full time. Yeah, because I was still teaching. I started Wild Herb Academy while I was still working for the government. And then I was just like, I can't do both anymore. It just physically, I could not do both anymore. And I started seeing all these positive changes happening in people. Like my husband used to weed eat that, or I used to not care about that plant, or I found this plant along my fence row and now I'm protecting it. And this is life changing and all these things. And people really like opening their eyes to the fact that there's medicine all around them. And for me, that was like, okay, I think I'm creating more change in the school than the government. And I did the government thing, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for 7 years, and the U.S. Forest Service for about my training was 3 years long. And then I was in my full-time botanist position for 1.5 years before I left.
I really love the evolution of how you became an herbalist. I think it's a lot of the herbalists I know kind of like went to this herb school or that herb school, but it kind of sounds like you learned a lot. You were kind of into herbalism as a child, but then you studied botany and ethnobotany in college. And I think that's kind of a really neat route and an option I never really even thought about. So, did you take any sort of like, say, formal herbal school, or was a lot of it like from books and stuff like that?
I'm glad you asked, because I definitely want to give a shout out to the school that was there for me. And that was Appalachian School of Herbalism. Cool. Yeah, Sierra Foley. And it was like the first herbal school in Asheville, I believe. One of the first. And Frank Cook, for a long time herbalists know him. And I remember going out in class with him and him being like, this is white man's foot, and teaching me all the native plants. And Gary Kaufman, my mentor, and Frank Cook both lit my passion for whoa, I don't need to buy any herbs, there's everything. And of course, being in Western North Carolina. So I did the Foundations of Herbalism course when I was an undergrad at University of North Carolina at Asheville. And that's kind of when I started practicing more with wild herbs, I made my first black cohosh tincture. And I get a backache, and I take it, I'm premenstrual, and I take that thing and it's gone. And I'm like, whoa.
Herbs work. Yeah.
And then I'm realizing too, a homemade medicine is 20 million times more powerful, right? Yeah. And that connection with the plant, and taking the plant, it's connecting with it and being seeing how big the population is and deciding I'm only taking one individual instead of buying it. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. And healing my daughter, becoming a mom and healing my daughter and seeing so many parents struggle and me struggle too with even telling my husband, no, we don't need to do that, and the doctor being like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And totally. It's we went through the ringer on some things, and so I feel like it's my duty in a way. And I hope to have wild herbs for parents and children to teach the parents, these are your options, I'm not a doctor, but these are your options. Yeah. And you can try this. This worked for me. I wish I would have did that. And I probably wouldn't have had to do this. If I would have done that, if I would have held my ground, I would have never had to go through that X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it feels good, but it is a lot of work. Yeah. I just want to be out here and,
Absolutely. I would love to hear more about the Wild Herb Academy and kind of how you went from, say, teaching classes on the side and then kind of building this herbal business essentially, and where it's at now. What does a Wild Herb Academy offer and everything?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. So it's funny. So, I had my master's. I just knew I had to teach, right? I'm studying. I wanted to teach. I just had to. It was spirit. I feel like spirit told me. And so then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get my PhD. So I started going to meet with professors. I'm like, that's the track. I'm gonna get my PhD. I'm gonna teach. And this is at 40. And I meet with a professor and she's like, by the time you get your PhD, you may be discriminated against, age discriminated. And I was going to have to like live in another state. Yeah. And I thought, wow. And I have this book. I don't know if I could find it. Well, actually I have her right here, but Julia Morton. And I have found this book. It's called Folk Remedies of the Low Country, right? And I'm reading about Julia Morton. And Julia Morton didn't have any formal training, but she was writing books. She got an honorary doctorate. So in my mind, being like a bonsai tree, being programmed, thinking I have to do it this way, I was like, oh, I don't need any more school. I just need to write and teach. That's it. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just knew how to do it. So I started Healing Plant Traditions and started this like WordPress website. It was wonky. I just started putting this stuff out there about these wild herbs. I started contacting different newspapers, different things like, hey, you want to publish my article? I got turned down a lot, got like a couple yeses. I didn't know what I was doing, Mason. I just was like, I have to do this. And then it evolved, it evolved. And so that would be like my message to anyone listening to this. If you don't, you love plants, but you don't know where it's going to go, just go. It'll evolve. Because I started selling tea, Yaupon tea. And I was at the farmer's market selling this Yaupon tea. And I didn't care how much I sold. I just cared that everyone knew Yaupon was the only caffeinated plant in North America, and its closest relative is yerba mate. And everyone in North America should be drinking Yaupon and not yerba mate. That's what I wanted everyone to know, right? Or at least I believe so, right? My opinion.
Right. Sure.
And then I was like, oh yeah, I got to teach. It's just so. Then I formed the school. It used to be called Yohola Herbal School, and then because I teach, 95% wild herbs. I do still teach other herbs. I called it Wild Herb Academy because my goal was no matter where you live, right? Everyone has plants, and being a botanist, I can really help people know which plants that they have, even if they don't know them or they're not used as herbs or they're released right now. Maybe the indigenous people are gone, and so there's no one to teach us. Or show us. We're like in other countries. So I do a lot of research in China, Japan, India, these other countries where the people from there are still there. And so that connection is really strong. And I just look at all the plant species, right, by Latin name. And then I start cataloging them and working with the medicine. And also I use my intuition a lot. So I listen to which plants attract me, and then I trust it. And then I key them out. And of course, if they're not poisonous, I work with them. And then I work with the 5 tastes. Is it bitter? Is it sour? Is it pungent? And then I try and work with it for several months at least before I start teaching about it. Like, yes, this is wax myrtle. It's astringent. It's a diuretic. It's antimicrobial. It will clean you out. But don't drink it if you're already dry or your kidneys are weak, So that's a little bit about Wild Herb Academy. My main goal is to reconnect people to the earth through the use of plants, like restoring the co-evolved relationship between people and plants, because we're in the Earth's 6th massive extinction. And I don't think people know that. Being on the front lines of plant conservation and seeing biodiversity loss firsthand and being like, holy beep, like this is serious. Like if we don't stop, there's going to be that day when we're like, oh, we can't eat money. Oh shit. Right? Oh damn, we're too codependent on the grocery store. Like we're just too codependent on the grocery store. And I fear that day for humans when we really can't go to the grocery store anymore. Because our agriculture is unsustainable. So that day may come and we don't have the diversity we need anymore. And we have a bunch of ornamentals in our yard. Right. And we don't know how to work with them. And they need water and they need fertilizer. They're not adapted to where we live, and so my yard is like 90% wild herbs. You can kind of see out the back. You see the ecotone.
Yeah, I see some stuff going on.
Yeah. So I just have like half my yard's wild. Like I just stopped mowing it, weed eating it. And I wanted my husband just to leave me one little path
Yeah.
But he did half. We
Yeah.
needed half, but I do have like
Yeah.
an evening primrose right in the middle. That's huge. Anyway.
So Amanda just tore up our front lawn and we're planting a bunch of plants, and she's actually working on the backyard right now too. So we're trying to create a yard full of native plants and whatnot. Also, you mentioned the five flavors. We were talking pre-show about the Herbalist Hour song. Did you notice at the very end of the song he goes over the 5 flavors?
No.
Oh, you should re-listen to it. It's pretty cool. That's how he that's how he ends it. Yeah, he's like, from the sweet to the bitter to the salty to the sour. Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. Something like that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah, I mean, that's key. I mean, herbalism is so simple.
Yeah.
So freaking
but complex.
simple.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the
but never bored
diversity.
with it. Right. So, well, thanks for sharing your journey up to Wild Herb Academy. I want to borderline transition over to talking about your Instagram account. So I don't know what you were at when we first were in communication with each other, but I just looked and it looks like you have 156,000 followers. That's insane. like I had no idea. I just like, oh, I'm interviewing April soon. I'm going to check out her Instagram. I was like, holy shit, there's so many that is so many people. I guess my question is that growth kind of recent? Either way, I'm curious if you have any tips or tricks like for Instagram for herbalists.
Yeah, totally.
You have a great channel. Yeah, you like it's very engaging. Amanda said she was actually watching some of your videos the other day, and yeah, you like do dances and all sorts of. You do all the right things. I'm just curious if you got any like tips for us.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I have tips. I'm here for you because my Instagram grew. Yeah, it grew fast. It was like 5,000 people in November.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Wow.
Or maybe less than that, like 2,000. And it was mostly all over Thanksgiving and Christmas. So you want to make sure you got some powerful messaging. You got some strong opinions. Those always work well. Like my latest one, I'm going to do this one. Like I want to go to the grocery store and be like, we are too codependent on this thing right here. Like we got to stop this, right? We talk about codependency with other people, but we got codependency on that grocery store. So, people like that opinion because it's like, oh yeah, I feel the same way. Follow, it's like building your tribe,
Totally.
And then 2, giving people valuable content. Like, what are you learning? Like, I always do that. Like, for instance, I'm struggling like burping more and like, what do I got going on, down here? And so I'm like doing the burdock root more. I'm drinking plantain. And so every time I'm doing something that works for me, I share it because it's right in that moment, instead of, I'm not that kind of person that, even though I like to get there, plans everything out like 12 months. And I'm like, oh yes, this is what I'm working on. Sure. Even though that does work, I did that with the liver in the spring. I did do a little bit of that, but I'm noticing that when I am feeling something and I am working through something and I share that, it comes through because people feel, the emotion. They can feel the emotion. It's very different than when we're just like, this is a pencil and it's blue and it writes really well versus like this pencil just really helped me get through this. Right. And also, yes, you have to focus on the problem. It's all about the problem. And you want to put that problem at the very front. Right. So if I'm working on digestive issues, it's going to say this herb is good for ulcers. And I'm not scared. Like a lot of people get scared and people say, oh, you're not a doctor. Or, but but it's like, no, we don't got time for that. We don't have time for fear. We don't have time. People are struggling. People are hurting. People need help, and we're the herbalists here. So we have to share what's in our heart, what's in our soul without filters. And that's our job. That's our responsibility, as medicine people on this earth. And so that's my tip. Like if you went through something and this herb got you through like infertility, share it, share your vulnerability, right? I mean, the other day I was putting magnolia petals on my breast because it works and it feels good and it smells great. And I have fibrocystic breasts in this one. And I swear when I wear them, I don't have it. Right. And I'm like, I got to share this. And I asked my husband, I'm like, should I share that? Like, no. And I'm like, yeah,
I'm going to anyway.
That's all we did. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, women loved it. Right. Of course, I got a lot of like, my boobs are too big for that, but it was still like cover the nipple. Right.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think it's that not having fear to show up authentically. I'm a dancer. That's my love language. Like, dude, I want to dance up there, like, and just do messages, but I hold back a lot. Like I hold back, but hopefully I'll feel more free, you know, and hopefully I'll feel more free to be more vulnerable. Like, you know, it took me 2.5 years to get pregnant. All I had to do, because my uterus is tilted, was lay on like a pillow or a bed, and I got pregnant. And the woman told me that lay like this during intercourse, it'll push your pelvic, your uterus, and then the semen will be able to travel where it needs to be. 2.5 years. I was going to get an IUI. Like, I need to share that. Those are the things that we have to share to help people. And we have to have that in our head. Like, not how many followers am I going to get? Not how many likes or comments. Because whenever I get in that mind frame, my Instagram sucks.
That's a great tip right there too.
Yeah.
Don't follow the numbers, you know, just follow your intuition and your what's on your heart, what's on your mind right now. What can be helpful to others?
Definitely. Yeah. What can be helpful for others? What major struggles did you go through or your clients went through that you saw success? And reels. You got to do reels. You just pictures are obsolete now.
Yeah.
You got to do these reels and try to batch them if you can do 7 in a day, or go out in the woods. I love this. This is when my Instagram started taking off. I just was like, I'm going to do Instagram today for like 2 hours, and I would go in the woods and I would just do like 7 posts.
That's super cool. I like also how you said you put the problem at the beginning, even on like, say, a short reel. If they don't automatically know what it's about, they might just swipe past you. But you put the problem right there, so they stick around. And one of them, I was going to ask you about this. One of them, you put it right at the beginning. You were like, "This is a true story. I used to be called a tree hugger," and then you basically talked about your love of hugging trees, and now you don't give a shit anymore that people call you tree hugger. So it's kind of a question about can you just speak to being a tree hugger? Because Amanda and I actually went on a really beautiful hike the other day. And we're in a new town called Appleton, Wisconsin, and there's this beautiful park called High Cliff State Park. And we were hiking around, and for whatever reason, I saw this big tree. And I was like, I'm going to hug that fucking tree. And I did. And it was, it just feels so good, you know, every time you do it. And I feel like it's been a while since I'd done that. And then I saw that on your stories or your reels. And I was like, I have to ask April about hugging trees. So why don't you speak to that a little bit?
That's funny. So yeah, when I was in high school, I was, I guess, what you would call like a flower child, hippie, tree hugger, right? I was called all those things. And I had like guy friends that I was like, you're a tree hugger, like the way they would say it, you know? And in a way, there was part of me that was like, wow, I wish I had a clique of friends, you know, like I'd see all these groups of people, and I'm an extrovert, but then I like labeled as this tree hugger, as this person, you know? And I feel like I was a medicine woman. I feel like I'm a medicine woman in America, which is a really hard place to be as a medicine person. And I didn't know that I was a medicine person, quote, and what that meant, and how I should deal, like how I should honor it, right? Yeah. And not put a cloth over it or dampen it. And it didn't happen until I was like, at a festival called the Gathering of the Peacemakers. And this man named Robert Roskine was like, if you have been alone most of your life, or you were always kind of like an outcast, it's because you're a medicine, or you're a peaceful warrior. You're like a medicine person. And I was like, oh, you know, so I'm a medicine person. I'm a tree hugger. I want to touch these plants. I want to love these plants. I want to meditate with them. I want to lay on the earth. But maybe in a way, in my culture where that's all been, you know, shoved down, I feel weird and awkward about it. But now I know I have to live my life untamed. I got to be that untamed cheetah. I got to like I have to do this for everyone, right? So I have to hug that tree and not feel weird. I mean, I'm probably still will feel weird if someone walks by and sees me hugging the tree, you know?
Let's be real.
I'll like do Kundalini yoga sometimes on the beach and I'm doing this, you know? And it feels so good. And I'm getting in this beautiful space and I'm opening and expanding. And then people walk by and I'm just like, I can feel it. You know, it's that. I don't know. I think a lot of it's our country where we live because we're so conformed. And my new teacher, Dr. Nita, he's a Tibetan medicine doctor. I went to a retreat at Minla and he's explained like we treat our kids like we create bonsai trees out of our children. And I feel like in America, we're all bonsai trees, right? We're pruned. You go to school, you do this, you have to do that. And what happens when you put the bonsai tree out in the middle of the open field? It can't even grow its roots. It can't even grow its branches. It just stays a bonsai tree. So here I am like a medicine person, a bonsai tree medicine person that just wants to freaking play the drum, dance around in the moonlight, dance in the rain, right? We're like most of your viewers, all of us are medicine people on this herbal path. I feel like we all have that feeling because we're medicine people, you know? And if we can't do that, good Lord, right?
Well said.
How are we going to bring someone else out of that, you know, and be like, oh, I hold medicine. Oh, I think in a way it's bestowed. It's a gift that's bestowed upon you, whether that's from your ancestors, whether that's from spirit, whether that's from the earth. I think like people coming into this world and they have a gift with herbalism, it was given to you by something other than yourself. And so you have to honor it, because if you don't, then you're not honoring the spirits or whoever gave you the gift, you know, in a way. So, and of course I'm 44, so I'm getting older, you know, but I mean, when I was 18, 19, 20, I didn't grow my armpit hair, my leg hair. And I was totally, you know, traveling across country, doing all those things completely free. But then I was like, oh, I have to go and get my master's and I got to get this job and I got to buy the house and I'm going to get married and I'm going to have kids and this is the path. And just earlier, was it today? I think, oh yeah, I laid on the grass today outside and there's cars going by and there's airplanes and all this. And I'm like, is this the life that I wanted? Is this where I want to be? You know, sometimes we got to stop and ask that. Could I pull my daughter out of school? Could I just sell everything and move somewhere else and be like, less like I have to maintain all this stuff, right? Because I just want to connect with the earth and spirit and I want to help people. Anyway, that was kind of a long answer to the tree hugger thing, but yeah, I'm definitely still a tree hugger.
Well, I'm glad I asked. It did seem kind of like a silly question, but I had a hunch that there would be other levels to why you do it and why you felt like you should share it with your followers on Instagram. So I'm glad I asked. But let's kind of stick in the plant realm here. I want to ask you about, you kind of talked a little bit about it earlier, but say wax myrtle. Do you want to kind of like teach us a little bit about wax myrtle?
Yeah. So I was hoping you're going to ask me about coastal herbs. So it's coastal herbs. Wax myrtle, it has the coolest Latin name, by the way, Morella. Like, wouldn't that be a pretty name?
That's really pretty. I like that.
It used to be Marispera, so it wasn't as easy. But now it's Morella cerifera. And it is just this amazing medicinal plant. Like in the 1800s, it was considered one of the most important medicinal plants because we didn't have clean water. And so it's highly, highly, highly antimicrobial. Like it is like our tea tree oil. It has synol in it and high amounts. And so I've tried to run it through a steam distiller, like I dabbled a little bit in that. And the oil that came out was amazing. And it's very anti-inflammatory. So you can make a decoction and add it to your bath. It actually was a really popular herbal tea in the 1800s and early 1900s. And then people just forgot about it, like so many other herbs, right? When I guess medical botanists weren't allowed to practice anymore. So yeah, Morella cerifera, wax myrtle, it is so common. And here's the thing, in the coast, all the wild herbs are common, which I love. Like, it's not like ginseng or black cohosh. I mean, you could never put a dent in wax myrtle. Ever, never, ever. And she just has so much to offer. Like, this herb is really good for women before they go into labor. Like, you want to bathe in it. In the Bahamas, there's a book called Bush Medicine done by James, I forget, and the woman who owns the herbal school in Virginia. You probably know her. Gosh, why can't I remember their names? I'm bad remembering people's names sometimes because I have all these plant names. But anyway, they wrote a book called The Bush Medicine of the Bahamas, which I highly recommend you get. And they have wax myrtle in there. And it talks about how the women are bathed in wax myrtle before they go into labor. And that also they drink 1 cup. And it's really good to drink after labor too. And so it tightens and tones the uterus because it's highly astringent. And going back to the taste, right? The flavors, astringent is lacking in American diet. Like, that's the one taste flavor that people aren't getting. And of course, bitter. But people would drink coffee. If you put cream and sugar, you're not getting that flavor. But anyway, the astringent is so good for a lot of constitutions, right? Like people that have kapha or like too much phlegm. And that herb will just tighten and constrict. So it's really good for people that have loose stools. And that was its number one go-to in the 1800s. And they're still being used, you know, in the Bahamas with the African community that lives there. I guess, I don't know how you say that, the local population of people, the native people. And so it's really cool. It's just so fun to work with. And when I smelled it, right? Like, going back to intuition and instinct, I moved from Western North Carolina and I moved to Charleston. I didn't know barely any of these herbs. And I just see this plant and I smell its leaves and I'm like, whoa, you are medicinal. And so that's kind of when I started working with it and then doing more research on it. And there are a lot of peer-reviewed journal articles on it that talk about how its oils fight candida, E. coli, staph. And so you could use it externally for wounds. You could use it internally. Just talking about it makes me want to go drink some. And I have it growing right outside. And the cool thing, let me see. Do I have it? I don't even know. No, I don't think I have it in here. I do. I'm in the apothecary, and one of the coolest things is it's fruit, right? Wax myrtle. You can make a candle from its fruit. And I have a YouTube video on how to do that. It was like one of the first, that was like in the beginning stages of me teaching. And I leave them up there, you know, I'm like, I don't care, you know, leaving all the videos up there. But basically you forage the berry. If you ever want to do something really cool, come to Charleston and forage for the wax myrtle fruit in the fall, collect the berries. And on the outside, there is wax. And you boil it and the wax floats to the top. And then you take the wax off. And here's the thing, like, I was taught and I watched, right? I had never done it before. Just boil it one time, get the wax. But then I was like, wait, is all the wax gone? So then I just kept boiling it and boiling. Like, I would harvest the wax, boil it again, harvest the wax, boil it again. The first time I got it, I only got like 1 ounce. The second time I did it, and I'm like, that's where you learn from experience, right?
Yeah, right.
I got like several ounces. And I told my students, I'm like, I'm sorry, this is actually how you do it, you know? And the second boiling yielded more wax than the first boiling. Well, no, I was just able to boil the berries over and over and keep yielding more wax.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I put my hands in there and just move around the berries, and then the wax would float up. And my hands never felt so good. Like, if you think about the paraffin wax dips, it's totally like that. So here's the thing. Here's my little secret. I take that. I'm like, this is wax. So you can make a candle, and it's a beautiful thing to make, right? And then you have that on the winter solstice, and it brings good luck. And it's this beautiful green color, and it's got a beautiful flame, and it lasts way longer than any other wax I've ever worked with. So I do recommend making a candle, but you can take that wax and use it in salves. And I have a facial cream recipe with the wax, and it's amazing because it's astringent and it's emollient And here's this plant wax that's just divine at our fingertips everywhere on the coast.
It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
It is everywhere. It's everywhere.
That is so neat.
You could write a whole book on wax myrtle. You know, you could write a whole book on wax myrtle.
Do you have a blog with that recepe?
No, I give the facial cream recipe to my students, you know, and members, but cool. I do have like how to make the candle. But I might put it in a book. Like I'm working on a book that probably won't be published until 2025. And we decided, like, all the people that were editing it were like, you have too many species that occur other places, right? Like sassafras. Or what's another example? Just some species that are in some of these other books, right? Yeah. And they're like, you just need mostly coastal plain endemic species. And so then I was like, well, what if we do just maybe 25, 30, and then we just go really deep with those. And I do more recipes. So maybe it will come out in a book, maybe. Yeah, because I've been having a lot of fun working with these plants and playing around. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Instead of trying to do 50 plants, just do like 25 coastal endemic species with all the good recipes.
That'd be awesome. Well, when you come out with a book, you'll have to come back on the show and we'll talk about it. But I did want to mention for the HerbRally actually has a listing of schools. A lot of listeners may not know this, but we have a listing of schools by state. And you could go to herbrally.com/schools. And I actually just did that because you were talking about some school in Virginia. And I'm just going to read these out for you and you tell me which one so we can get credit. So there's the Blue Heron Outdoor School. There's the Green Comfort School of Herbal Medicine, the Heart of Herbs Herbal School, Sacred Plant Traditions.
That one.
Okay,
Sacred
cool.
Plant Traditions.
All right. So that's shout out Kat Meyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kat Meyer.
I'm actually just emailing with her today and we'll be having her on the show very, very soon. So I'm glad we did that because, I always love shouting out Kat. So very good. Well, so just FYI, in about 15 minutes, it'll have been an hour. I'm down to go as long or as little as you want. So we could keep rolling. I still have plenty of questions for you. So you want to keep it rolling at least till for another 15, 20 minutes or so?
Yeah. And I'll just keep my answers shorter.
Word. Okay, cool. I really did want to ask you this today, so I want to be sure to ask it before time's up. But can you walk us through the process of harvesting plantain, aka plantago seeds, and then using them, say, as psyllium? Because I've always heard that's what psyllium is, but I've never really actually done it. So, and I think you did that recently on Instagram.
I did. I'm like, I wanted to bring them in. Oh, can I show you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
No, you're good. So for the listeners, if you're listening to the audio only version, this is also available on YouTube. So if you want to see what April's up to, check out the video version of this episode on our YouTube channel. So
all right. So this is the seed head, right? And I'm gonna tell on myself. I'm gonna be honest. So plantain, I used to not teach about plantain because I'm like all herbalists teach about plantain. So I'm just gonna teach about these obscure herbs, right? And then I was like, no, plantain is everywhere and plantain is amazing. So I have to teach about it. But the seeds, remember I told you I was kind of having like digestive issues and these seeds are so amazing. So I'm working with them to help heal my body. And that's why I'm like sharing so much because they're pretty amazing. So you harvest the seed heads, right? And then I'm like just drying them on a pan like this, or you can I want to take some off because this is usually you just want one layer. You don't want them that deep, but they dry pretty easily. Like you could even dry these in brown paper bags for those of you who don't have like screens or different mechanisms. Like I have screens back there, but anyway, you dry them. I just leave them open, right? Because we're not having to worry about aromatics. So I just let them be what they are out in the open. I think you could even dry them in the sun, like the way the indigenous people do. And you could even, like, once they dry, you could even leave them on there, but you can easily take your finger like this. Oh, wait, it's not gonna, hold on. Let me find one. And just pull the seeds off with the seed husk. And so here is the seed and the seed husk, okay? And to get the seed out, at least of this one, I think it's probably easier with Plantago major, which is common plantain. This one is Lanceolata, English plantain, which is my favorite because the leaves, like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. Like this is the tea, and the tea is this beautiful dark maroon.
Oh wow.
I really want you to see it. Really dark maroon color, you know, and you have to make it to appreciate it. That's the thing. It's like with you got to do it to appreciate it, right?
Sure.
So you get these seeds, and I recommend just leave it in the seed husk, because you'll see if you Google, you know, psyllium seeds or plantain seeds, you'll see a lot seeds and seed husk, right? Because you're still going to get the mucilaginous properties from the seed, and you get a little bit more fiber from the seed husk, and then you don't have to go through all the trouble because we're limited in time. So I would never want someone not harvest these seeds because they don't have to clean the seed husk away, because I find it completely fine. And what I do with them is I do it my oatmeal. So I do like a half a cup of oatmeal with like 1 tablespoon of plantain seeds and 1 teaspoon of ground flax seeds with a little maple syrup. And that's been very demulcent and mucilaginous and extremely healing to my digestive system. The other thing you can do is you can just put them in a blender with water and blend them up and drink them that way. Or you can, of course, make a tea. But I highly recommend drying the leaves and using those all winter, especially if you have English plantain, because it is amazing. I mean, it is amazing tea. And I'm going to start drinking it every day now with my burdock. So I've been doing plantain and then another tea blend, which is burdock, calamus root, and a couple cardamom pods. And then I've been sweetening most of my stuff with maple syrup.
Do you harvest the calamus root, or you buy that somewhere?
No, I've been looking for calamus root in the Low Country for a long time, and it's just not that. It's not common. Like you barely ever see it.
I one time bought a rhizome from Strictly Medicinals, and then I was growing in my backyard when I lived in Oregon. So theoretically, that's an option. You might be able to grow it, like say, in some sort of pond situation in your backyard.
I totally need to do that. I had some from like, I don't know what kind of calamus it was. It was from a garden, like one of those experimental gardens. And I just took a little piece and it did so well. And then it's a long story, but anyway, it's dead now. And so I got to get some more calamus because it's one of my favorite. I like to just chew a little bit on the root.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. You were saying how you like to teach about more like obscure plants as opposed to say like how everyone teaches about plantain, which is true. It's always like the first plant that teachers will teach. And I think it's cool that you still found like a unique way of teaching about it, which is by using the seeds. I'm sure a lot of other herbalists teach about the seeds, but honestly, like I've gone this long in the herbal world, and I still haven't ever harvested plantain seeds. So I think that's a pretty unique thing that I'm definitely going to be doing here coming up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your foraging membership?
All right. Well, it's called In Season, and it's designed. I designed it to really help people reconnect to the earth through the use of wild herbs. And so I teach 3 new wild herbs each month. And I have some members that don't live, in Charleston or live in other areas of the world. And so I try to leave like some of the herbs in January up, if they're in Canada, they can still watch it. And I have recipes and I teach, how to make medicine and food. And so I feel like that's really good value because I'm showing people how to make medicine food. It's geared towards people that want to heal naturally, right? And with the plants in their backyard. And then the other thing that I do for people is I teach them to trust their intuition and to send me pictures of plants they're attracted to. And then I key them out for them. And then if I'm 100% certain, then I tell them what it is and how to use it and work with it if there's a use, or I tell them, it's poisonous. I've had a couple people send me pictures of euphorbs, plants in the euphorbiaceae. And I'm like, no, you can't eat that, but you can use it externally.
Didn't know that.
And yeah, it's been a lot of fun for me to work with people in different parts of the world and to see these plants, right? To see, like, I got to see a wild chamomile field in Cyprus. That was amazing from a member named Maria. And to be able to see which people are connecting to which plants, and then recently I taught them how to determine their constitution. Like, are they mostly earth and water, fire, air? So then as they're working with these herbs, they know which ones they need to go to, they need the cooling herbs or the hot herbs. And I mentioned Dr. Nita. Dr. Nita is one of my new teachers. He's amazing. And learning about Tibetan medicine, it's so similar to Ayurvedic medicine. But one thing that I was really fascinated with is that they're talking about, like, if the herb grows in the cool, moist place, that's really good for pitta, right? If the herb grows in a really hot environment, that's really good for kapha. And I'm like, that makes sense, because spiderwort is so good for me, violets are so good for me, and I'm pitta, and these herbs are in the cool environment. Like, how cool is that? To say cool so many times.
I'm working on that too.
Like wild mustard, for instance, Brassica gensea, that plant is in the hot sun, and that plant is pungent and spicy. So I kind of been thinking a lot about that, like where the plants are growing and how it works in the body. But that's the membership. It's really geared to helping people connect, and they can go beyond the 3 herbs that I'm teaching them, and they can learn the herbs in their yard. And right now, I hope I can do that for a while. I may have to eventually hire another botanist, to be able to help me.
Sure.
But right now, they get to work one-on-one with me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds very interactive. It sounds like you're actually, like, interacting with your members and everything. It sounds very unique. So where do they learn more about that? Is that wildherbacademy.com?
Yeah, wildherbacademy.com/forage-monthly.
Awesome.
Forage-monthly. Yeah. And I think my goal, so I want to create milestones for them. And the end milestone is, 50 wild herbs. 50 wild herbs, and you can heal your family and friends with those 50 wild herbs. And they're within 2 miles of your doorstep, preferably.
Wow. Yeah.
And if you live in the city, then you're working more with trees and shrubs, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's doable for most people in this world, I hope, to know 50.
Hope.
Yeah. That want to, right? And the ones that want to and that are really interested, they do so good. And that makes me keep showing up. It makes me want, because, I was teaching in person, and now I'm teaching predominantly online. And that, can be hard.
Yeah.
But it's been having that connection. Like, we have a private Facebook community, and people are posting their pictures, and we're inspiring each other. Members are inspiring me, like I posted a picture of gardenia flowers, because you can, those are unnerving, and then someone else posted a picture of their spiderwort water. And so that part makes me feel a little bit more connected. And then I think what I'll do is have retreats for the members, and they, get a discount. So then we can have that community. And then hopefully what I'd love to do is hire teachers, to work in different places. If I have a lot of members in a particular area.
Yeah. Yeah. The sky's the limit. I mean, it sounds like you're a lot like me in the sense you're like always formulating different ideas and how you want to kind of add and improve. So that's really exciting. Plus sounds like you might be having a podcast coming along and a book, and I'm just going to put all the work on your plate. So,
and more gray hair. No.
Yeah. Same. I've got some coming in right here, but, well, why don't we wrap it up with a couple just kind of more like funsies, personal questions. What's something you like to do outside of the world of plants and herbalism? Like, what's one of your hobbies?
That's so hard.
Yeah, everyone says like I like to garden. Dance. I'm like, that's still plant. Oh, that's an acceptable answer. Okay.
Dance. I like that ecstatic dance.
Oh, do you do that?
I want to. Yeah, I need to go more. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you've done it before?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Asheville. I did Asheville Movement Collective. It was amazing.
How long will you be in there for, like dancing in one session?
1 hour.
1 hour? Is that kind of just like that's like perfect for me, or is that's okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like I know people that do that as well, and they love it. So I've never done that, but now we're gonna do a let's get deep random card, and I don't know what this question is gonna be. So
hilarious.
Yeah, I know, right? I got it from Target.
I love it. That's hilarious.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose and why?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one.
It is, and I could choose another one if you want.
Forever? Where would I live in forever? I would live somewhere quiet.
Well, it says if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose? So it doesn't have to be forever. But you like a quiet place.
I want a quiet place. Yeah, because I'm like, this is loud here in the city. It's starting to bother me a little bit because I was in the mountains where it was quiet, you know? If I could have it, yeah, like I would like to live maybe in the States half the year and then somewhere where it's quiet half the year. Oh, cool. And noticing that, like my constitution, like it would be nice to be able to go somewhere where it's like cooler, more thick vegetation, and then be somewhere where it's hot too. And I need the quiet. I think that helps me. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I haven't figured that out all the way yet where that would be. Maybe someplace in Mexico, Central America. I like St. Augustine, Florida a lot. And I like Hatteras, North Carolina. But I haven't narrowed in on my one place.
That works. So I have to answer too. And, you know, I just moved to Appleton, Wisconsin, and I absolutely love it here. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it. And it is nice and cool. And I'm finding more and more herbalists to live up here. So you should look into Wisconsin, although it gets very, very cold, you know, obviously during the winter time, but there's something about this city though. It's just, it's really called us, and I absolutely adore it. And, but I used to think I wanted to live in New Orleans. I was obsessed with, New Orleans culture and everything. And I still really love it there. But now that I'm here, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I found my spot, at least for the next couple decades. So, nice. So that's my answer. Also a borderline cop out, but that's okay. Well, we'll wrap up the show with kind of a question we've been asking most guests. What's your big why for doing this work, and what keeps you learning and growing?
Definitely protect the earth, you know, the plants. To protect the plants, and now I'm becoming more of a humanitarian. Before I was like, you know,
fuck the people.
Yeah. Now I'm definitely like a humanitarian and an earth lover, you know, all connected as I am, so is he, or so is she. Right.
Yeah.
Noticing that we're all connected. Yeah, I think that's why I keep showing up. And sometimes I get discouraged, but I will say this, like the other day I was downtown and I saw these wild herbs growing in the cracks. And I was like, Pachamama, Mama Earth's going to be okay. I don't have to worry so much. Maybe I don't have to work so hard. I need to still have fun. You know, that's what I'm realizing. I need to still have fun. Life is short, and Pachamama's going to be okay.
Amen.
But I am going to still show up. You know, I'm still going to show up and do the work, but maybe I don't have to work so hard.
Yeah. It's all about balance, you know. We gotta have a little fun out here too. So, well, April, I really appreciate you taking the time. It was a lot of fun. And I like getting to know you a little bit better, and let's definitely do a round 2, because I got about half my questions left. So thanks so much, and we'll see y'all. Any final thoughts or anything? Or
no, just cool. Thank you. It's good getting to know you. I love what you're doing and what you're doing for the community. And when I first got started, you know, you helped me out. You were right there and let me do a podcast and on some really dorky topic, medical botany, you know, and having me come back. So thank you for keeping us connected. And I'm happy for you. You're in your new place and you found your spot.
I love it. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Herbalist Hour. Take care.
Peace, everyone. Bye, Mason.
Bye. Take care. Hey everyone, this is Mason with HerbRally. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and also go ahead and subscribe. We come out with new herbal content each and every week. If you didn't know, HerbRally also lists herbalism events. We list herbalism events chronologically. We list them also by state. So you could just go ahead and search by Oregon or Wisconsin or wherever you live. You could find out what herbalism events are happening in your neck of the woods. We also list herbalism events, virtual herbal events. So if you can't make it to an in-person conference or plant walk, we list lots of virtual events as well. To find out more, you could go to herbrally.com/events or herbrally.com/virtual. But if you can help it, I would highly recommend trying to go to an herbalism conference. Those are some of the best learning experiences I've ever had, and that's where you can find different herbal teachers, and then maybe you could perhaps take their apprenticeship. But yeah, just do what you can. Get out there and learn about the herbs, you know, like yarrow, dandelion, corn, you know, all the above, like all the medicinal herbs. And we'll see you out there. Hope to see you at an herb conference. All right, bye.